Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. I know in the last video I said that I would be talking about some of the different costs that it has to do with miscarriage. And so today I figured I'd talk about the emotional cost of miscarriage. It's about more than a month, almost 2 months now, and crazy as that is, since I found out about the second miscarriage. And the truth of the matter is that I'm not doing great. The second miscarriage really did hit hard, because the first one was, it sucked and it was a horrible feeling to go through that. But it's like, okay, it happened. But the second one is the one that makes you kind of feel like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? What is wrong with my body that I can't have babies, right? I can't carry a baby to term. And so that is an incredibly depressing thought that I don't think most people put a lot of process in when they're thinking about this. There's kind of the assumption that you should be able to do this. You're a woman. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. And even when you're going through infertility and you know the success rates, which are not very high actually, whether it's IUI or IVF, you know that it's a good chance that something's going to happen. But actually living it and actually going through it is not that easy. And I wasn't fully prepared for that second miscarriage, with them telling me that it wasn't gonna happen yet again. And so there had been a lot of crying, a lot of being angry, and then also dealing with the reaction of the people around you. I love my family and I love my friends, and they are all incredible and amazing. But one thing you do definitely deal with is this idea that, once again, we're not supposed to talk about pregnancy before, 6 to 12 weeks. And you're not supposed to celebrate it, right? Because it may not take. And I had a lot of that with this second miscarriage. I had friends and family who, while being loving and meaning well, were not very supportive, because it's kind of like, okay, well, it didn't happen, oh well. There was definitely that feeling of, it doesn't matter because it didn't take. That's sad, get over it, move on. And that makes you feel very alone, especially in my circumstance where I am alone. I don't have a partner to do this with. I am doing this completely by myself. And while I have a fantastic support of family and of friends, I'm doing this on my own. At the end of the day, in my really hard moments, I don't have anybody to lean on to. And I'm definitely not going to have my kids do anything, because they're my kids. And so then there's also having to be brave for your kids. And life goes on, life moves on. And so it's an incredibly lonely thing to go through. And when you don't know the answers, when you don't know why it's happening, it is really messing with your head. Because if you can't do the most basic thing that you're supposed to be able to do, how can you do anything else well? And that might just be me, but having heard stories of many other women who have gone through miscarriage, particularly multiple miscarriage, my story is not that unique. It's not that unique to have this serious doubt in who you are and what you can do because of this thing that you seemingly haven't been able to do. And in my case, it means doctors. It means more doctors. It means a lot more money. And it means hearing something that most people kind of fear, which is, oh, by the way, you might be infertile. And there's really no way to prepare yourself for that. There's no way to get ready to hear that you can't have kids. Now, in my story, that's not quite what happened. I'll discuss that in a different video when I give an update, but it really messed with me these last couple months. And then, there's going through the miscarriage itself. I am lucky that I'm, in a way, the wrong word, but I'm lucky that I don't, I'm lucky that I lose so early in a way, because it means my miscarriages are not heavily medical. It means I don't need a lot of intervention. It means a miscarriage for me is not a life-threatening thing. Whereas for many people, when they're further down the line, a miscarriage is a life-threatening situation because of the blood loss. I bled for several days, and people don't talk about that, and so it's uncomfortable to talk about, but it is part of that experience. And it's an emotional experience when you're going through miscarriage and the miscarriage starts, because it is the literal view of you losing this life that was inside of you. It's the physical representation of there's no longer a baby there. This is gone. And you do hope against hope, I think, at times, that maybe the doctors are wrong, even when you know they're not. So I really wish more people talked about miscarriage and what it feels like to go through and to walk through. It's not this big scary thing in the sense that a lot of people go through it and you can get through it, but it is a terrifying experience, and it's a very lonely experience. I think even if you did have a partner, because as the woman, you're the one having to go through it. You're the one having to go through the physical pain and through the physical aspects of it. But it would be nice to have a partner. And that is definitely, for me, one of the more emotional aspects of it, is not having someone to turn to, not someone having someone to hold my hand, not having someone to grieve with. Again, my friends and my family are amazing and wonderful, and have been very supportive, and were very supportive while I was going through it, and with my doctor's office. But it was still very, very lonely and messed with me enough to where I had to take some time away from my life to process it. It wasn't the only thing I was going through, but it was definitely the very bitter icing on a really crap cake. And so I've been off and been processing on my own and working with my therapist, which is something else I will say. If you can afford it, if it's something that's available to you, I would definitely speak with a therapist. I'm very lucky that I already had a therapist that I had been seeing for a couple years before this. I'm also very lucky that because I'm going through a clinic and not just doing it on my own, there's actually support services that are available through my clinic. I haven't needed them because I do have my own, but for people who don't already have it, that's a wonderful resource to have. Because they are trained in how to handle this. There's also reproductive psychologists, so again, psychiatrists that are prepared to handle these issues, which is great. And if you have access to those, use them. I've used my primary physician and my therapist as my go-tos and what I'm dealing with. But if you have access to outside help, take it, because you don't have to go through this alone. You know, there's online support groups, take your pick, that will walk through this. If you happen to be a person of faith, reach out to your pastor or your female or your women pastor. You'll find a lot of support there. And the emotional cost of miscarriage is high, particularly the further you go along. And it's really easy to lose hope. And I haven't lost hope. There was definitely a moment where I was in a rut and I felt like losing hope, but I didn't, thankfully. And I'm on the other side. We're actually getting ready to do this again, so it'll be IUI number 4. And I'm really hopeful with it. I know this time a successive pregnancy, you do get a little bit more fearful and a little bit more cautious about celebrating, but I feel like I've always felt, which is you absolutely should celebrate getting pregnant as soon as you know you're pregnant. While I understand the emotional cost of your friend and your family also feeling sad and joining in the grief, you need people to join in your grief. And if the people around you can't handle that emotional burden, then maybe there's some other people that you need to have around you. But I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that a lot of people in your tribe will be happy to go with you, will be happy to mourn with you, because it is a grief and it is a loss. There's a lot of people who treat miscarriage as something that's not talked about and something that just on the back burner because it wasn't a real baby. it wasn't here. And in my case, I'm losing before there's even, an ultrasound or picture. So I don't even have a picture of my babies at all. They just exist in my memory and in my heart. And I'll always have that. It'll always be a loss. Now, no matter what the reason was, whether it was something to do with my body or just that they are genetically abnormal and therefore the natural biological process took place as it should, doesn't matter. I still lost 2 babies in the span of 3 months. And I'm going to grieve that like losing 2 children. And that's okay. And it's also okay if you bounce back. I think that's the other aspect of grief, is that no one can tell you how to grieve. You grieve on your own, and you grieve in your own way. And that's okay too. But the emotional cost of miscarriage is not light, and it's not simple, and it definitely needs to be honored in some way, I believe, whether that's the old-fashioned planting a rose bush, or just dealing with it in therapy, or drawing, or art. My therapist had me do my reproductive story, so going over what I thought my reproductive story would be, which of course I don't think anybody's reproductive story ever includes miscarriage, ever includes pregnancy loss. That's never part of your story. But in the real story, and no matter what my family becomes, that's part of my story. I had 2 miscarriages, and that will mark me forever. Wish I'd never gone through them. Wish they weren't part of my story. I wish my story was happy, and my little spring baby would be coming still. Actually, it would be a winter baby. It'd be a late winter or a midwinter baby. But I wish I was showing right now. I wish I was showing right now. I wish a lot of things that aren't going to happen. So that's my story, and that's who we are. If you're dealing with miscarriage, I'm so sorry that you're having to go through that. I'm so sorry that you're having to live through that. I'm so sorry if you're doing it alone, that you have to go through it alone. I wish everybody who goes through it love and support, and that we should all be so blessed to have support. So the emotional cost of miscarriage is high, and if you know someone going through it, reach out to them, because even if they say they're okay, sure, they may actually be okay, but a good amount of them are probably going through something really, really hard right now, and really painful, and are trapped in this societal belief that we don't talk about miscarriage, and that miscarriage should be kept private, and that it is what it is. Maybe, hopefully the next one is good, and for many people the next one is. Absolutely. In my case, it wasn't. In my case, the next one was just as painful as the last Sorry, dogs as I'm walking. So, thank you for everybody who stuck around to the end of this. It was a bit of a long one, but I figured it'd be easy to talk about this while walking and not kind of editing my thoughts and just being honest with what I was feeling and thinking. I hope everyone has an incredibly blessed day, and you guys take care.